All right, so this is going to be a review of Shazam 2, Shazam Fury of the Gods. I'll say how I feel about it in a second. Once again, this one's directed by David F. Sandberg. I'm pretty sure he did the first one too. As far as how I feel about the first one, I thought it was just okay. I know a lot of people really liked it. They had fun with it. I had fun with it too, but a lot of the jokes didn't really work for me, and the effects weren't that great. The villain wasn't that great. I think it was Mark Strong in that movie. I didn't really care for him and the final confrontation with him. So I had some issues with the movie, but it was ultimately okay. But as far as this one, I definitely have some things I want to say about it, but we'll get to that. So Zachary Levi plays Shazam, or the superpowered version of Billy Batson again. Billy Batson again is played by Asher Angel, and he's feeling inadequate as the leader of the team. As you remember from the first movie, at the end, all of his foster siblings, they also got powers, and pretty much the same powers as Shazam. And they've been a team for a while, and they've been doing superhero stuff. He wants to do everything together, so he's really controlling. Partially because of his abandonment issues, which is a thing in the movie, based on being abandoned by his mother and things like that. So that's also going on. And in this, the villains are gods. Hespera, played by Helen Mirren, and Calypso, played by Lucy Liu. And it starts off with them going to a museum to get that staff from the first movie. It got broken and all that. It ended up in a museum. And they end up taking that staff, turning a bunch of people to stone, things like that. They want to restore this other realm, this other area where the gods used to be. They want to restore that. And then they also, I guess, want to take away the power. It's kind of convoluted. They also want to take away the powers from the kids because they're unworthy of them, and those powers were stolen from their father to begin with. That's what I got from the movie. It's a little all over the place. But yeah, they just have to take them on, and defeat them while also dealing with little things going on within their team, their family. So let's start off with positives. Once again, Zachary Levi is really great as Shazam. He's really fun, right? Unfortunately, a lot of the things that he's given aren't that fun or aren't that funny. We'll get a little bit more into that later, but he was still really good in the movie. As far as the siblings, I think most of them are kind of flat or really don't have much going on. But Freddie Freeman, once again, is kind of the main one that they're focusing on, and he has a romance in here, and it feels forced, but they are giving the character something to do. He's less annoying in here. He feels like Michael Cera 2.0 a little bit, so he is still a little bit annoying, but he's not as annoying as he got in the first movie for me, because he's a little bit older. I also like the older sister character. It seemed like he had the most going on with those two when it came to his siblings. And so yeah, the family dynamic's not as good as it is in the first movie, but it's still here, especially with those two. Also, I think the action is kind of fun. Like there's this one part where Helen Mirren, she gathers together this ball of whatever it was, like machinery or whatever it was, and was going to throw it at Billy when he's super powered up. And he uses his speed to switch them out at the last minute, and she ends up getting hit. I thought that was well done. That and a couple other things. The thing with the dragon could have been cooler, but there's still some moments there too. So, the stuff with the powers and the action, it's kind of cool. I do like the part at the very beginning with the bridge. The effects are better. If there's one thing I could say has improved from the first movie, it's probably the only thing that's improved, because everything else is lesser, and we'll get to that. I think the effects are better. CGI is better. I remember, it's been a while, but I remember the effects being like laughably bad, especially at the end when all the kids got their powers. I thought that was awful. I thought that was really bad. It was a bunch of slow-mo and things. They don't do that here. So, they're doing the exact opposite. They're going quick and things like that. They're using their super speed a lot and things like that. I will say the effects still aren't great. Like Lucy Liu riding a dragon at the end didn't look all that great, and there's points where they're flying that still doesn't look very good. But it's at least better than it was in the first movie, so I will give it that. Negatives, let's get into it. So if I had to really, say what this movie feels like to me, it feels like the first movie, but worse in almost every way. Like I said, the effects are better, but the jokes are worse. The family dynamic isn't done as well. There's some moments, but isn't done as well. The emotional moments, there's some stuff at the end that's okay, but it feels forced. And the overall writing is just not good. The villains are also worse. I mean, the villains, their motivations, like 1 minute it seems like it's to And it doesn't even make sense too. And this might be a slight spoiler, like a slight spoiler. I won't go completely into it. I want to spoil the whole thing, but I won't. um, it feels like they're just trying to take their powers early on because they're not unworthy about it. And there's this whole thing Helen Mirren goes into where it's like those powers were stolen away from us. If you had money that was stolen from you, wouldn't you pursue the person that stole that money from you and things like that, right? Which I thought was pretty good. Helen Mirren's good in this movie. Then it feels like their motivation completely changes to, oh no, we're not really trying to go after you or take your powers or anything. She actually stops Lucy Liu from doing it, and we just want to restore our realm, or the realm of the gods or whatever. And it's like, okay, well, if you're only trying to do that, you might as well just work with them at this point. What's the point of even fighting? But whatever. Then one of them gets captured on purpose so that she can get a golden apple so they can use it to restore their place. And then one of them turns on the rest of them and decides to be full on villain and use it to like terraform the earth into their realm, like restore it on earth, which will destroy the earth, which felt really forced just because we still need these characters to be villains and we need this craziness with all this stuff going on in the third act with like all these like different creatures and things that involve Skittles and black unicorns and shit. It is crazy by the end, but not really all that fun. Like not really in that fun of a way. It just feels like it's like, oh shit, we gotta go big. And it was just kind of lame. But the villains, they seem like they just kind of do whatever. And then also at the end, it turns out all you needed was the staff, I guess, to restore your realm. And it's like, well, why didn't you do that then? I mean, just blatantly goes against what they wrote earlier, at least as far as what I got, because it's really convoluted. A lot of the movie feels like it has really slow pacing because, for one, like in the first movie, the final confrontation with the villain feels like it takes way longer than it should. I remember that being a criticism I had for the first movie with Mark Strong. But here, there's points where they just sit around and just talk. Like they'll have an interaction with the villains, and then they'll pad out the rest of the movie with them just sitting around in an area just talking. It's just a gang ton of exposition. You can't understand fully what's going on or get a full grasp of it because there's so much heavy-handed exposition. I mean, that is mainly the movie, right? You want to see more interactions with the family members, get to know some of the other ones other than Freddy and things like that, but you don't really get that. You don't really get to know some of these other siblings, and this is something that just needs to be said. I'm sure it's going to be said in a lot of the reviews of this movie. It was a really bad idea to not do this sequel like immediately afterward, the first one, because these kids have definitely aged. And they have definitely aged in the movie too, but they've definitely aged in real life. I mean, because Billy is supposed to be, they're like, oh, well, you're about to turn 18. It's like, this kid is 17. He's clearly in his 20s already. And the actor, yeah, is in his 20s, and he looks it. There's like one scene where he's in high school or right outside the high school talking to Freddie, and it's like, yeah, you look out of place. You do. That's also a thing. I mean, the movie just kind of feels all over the place to me, especially by the end. And a lot of it just doesn't make sense. Like, it feels like this script is just bad. Like, I complained about some of the jokes not being all that funny in the first movie. They're much worse here. There's points where Zachary Levi will say something just random, and then he'll stop and he'll tell his one of his siblings, he's like, yeah, I regretted that as soon as I said it. It's like, yeah, then why is it in this script? Because that was not funny. There are funny moments still, but a lot of it feels random and just kind of thrown in there because we need continuous jokes. Anyway, yeah, that's it. This is worse in pretty much every way, other than, like I said, the effects. The jokes are worse. It's not as fun. Zachary Levi's not even as fun, even though he still does a good job. The villains are even worse, with motivations that flip on a dime and don't really make all that much sense. The script is bad and kind of goes against its own rules at certain points and things like that. There's just things that just don't make sense. And the family elements of it, the things with the siblings and stuff, there are moments, but it's just not as good as it was, in that first movie. It is just worse in every way. And I was just okay with that first movie. I wasn't crazy about it. If there was anything to make me feel better about that first movie, it would be seeing this, because it is legitimately worse in almost every way. I regretted giving that first movie a rental. I remember I gave it a rental back in the day. I meant to give it higher. I should have given it higher. So I will retroactively give that first movie a good enough, and I will give this movie a rental. This is a rental. That is exactly what this is. There is no point in seeing this in the theater, really seeing it at all, but definitely not in the theater. It just, really pales in comparison to that first movie, and it's just it feels forced. It feels like a forced sequel to me, and I don't think anybody really needs to see another one. But anyway, that's it. That is Shazam: Fury of the Gods.